Team Cherry's Hollow Knight is a 2D platformer game made in 2017. The game is a personal favorite of mine, and I would go as far as to say it's my favorite game of all time. Team Cherry got a lot right with Hollow Knight, from the beautiful hand-drawn environments, to the captivating and mysterious story, to the dynamically challenging platforming and combat. It's an incredible title, absolutely worthy of your time and money. I'll keep this video spoiler-free, so don't worry if you haven't played it yet. When you first load up the game, you enter the world of Hallownest as the knight. Although not absent from the game entirely, you'll find very little written lore around the world. Most of the lore and story progression comes from dialogue with the characters you'll occasionally encounter. This design choice makes the world significantly larger, as it encourages you to explore everything to learn about Hallownest. When you first gain control of the knight, you aren't given an objective or a map. You're simply expected to explore the area. And while progression throughout the game is mostly linear, you're never explicitly told where to go next. This can make the game feel a bit daunting in the beginning, but it pays off later by making the exploration feel more rewarding and replayable. But what really ties the lore and world together is the use of music and art throughout Hallownest. One thing Hollow Knight really excels at is conveying emotion through the use of the soundtrack and the art. Christopher Larkin's original soundtrack somehow manages to consistently capture the right emotion for every occasion. Coupled with the use of color and depth, each new area and boss fight feels unique. There is a sense of inspiration and determination ascending the vibrantly pink crystal peaks, gloom and curiosity in the quiet town of Dirtmouth, and eeriness in the infested caverns of Deep Nest. But Hollow Knight goes beyond just making interesting areas. In lieu of dialogue, Team Cherry uses the art, music, and sounds to tell the story. For example, entering Deep Nest for the first time, it becomes apparent that there's something very wrong with the place and you aren't welcome. The constant chittering of insects in your ears, and the occasional spider or centipede scampering across your screen, paired with the very cramped spaces, put you on edge and make your skin crawl. As you explore, you'll come across signs of abandoned civilization, and you're left to speculate on what exactly happened here. This masterful usage of visual and auditory effects makes the entirety of Hollow Knight look and feel incredible. But at the heart of the game is the gameplay itself, and wow does Team Cherry deliver here. As the knight, you fight with a small sword-like weapon called the nail. You'll gain access to a few spells throughout the game to give you more options in combat, and as you progress through the story you'll find items that give you more movement options such as dashing, wall jumping, and double jumping. These items are necessary to progress the story at times and make combat more dynamic. Additionally, there are dozens of charms to find throughout the world that you can mix and match to fit your playstyle. Combat in Hollow Knight is my favorite aspect of the game. The fights are well choreographed, and each boss moves and attacks very differently from the last. Learning each boss's attacks and movements is vital to succeeding in the game. When you eventually get the hang of fighting one boss, it almost looks like you're watching a dance on screen between you and your opponent. This is best showcased during the Nightmare King Grim fight and the Sisters of Battle fight. Being two of the more difficult fights in the game, your movements have to be precise and fluid to keep up, which really sells the idea that you're dancing across the screen. Grim even takes a bow before the fight starts. The enemies also move like you'd expect. Bigger enemies are slower and clumsier, but more powerful, while smaller enemies are more dexterous and lethal, but often don't have as much health. All in all, the combat never gets boring because each fight has to be approached differently. But the scaling difficulty throughout the game isn't just apparent in the combat. The platforming gets more difficult as well. The progression is steady and not too difficult, but there are areas that exist to be more challenging as well, steadily requiring more user input than simply jumping to the next platform. In conclusion, Hollow Knight has some really enjoyable gameplay with dynamic difficulty throughout that keeps me coming back to it long after finishing the game. And the beautiful art, music, and story really do a phenomenal job of tying everything together. This is a game that I would recommend to anyone who enjoys the platformer genre and games on the more difficult side. I also recommend playing through Hollow Knight sooner than later, as the sequel, Hollow Knight Silksong, is currently in development and expected to release in the near future. Hollow Knight is currently available for $15 on the PS4, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and PC. If you have thoughts, comments, or questions, let me know down below. Thanks for watching.